Hello and welcome to ABC's film. This week we are watching
the Mexican Way.
The Mexican Way through the River Kwai.
Cultural appropriation. It's fucking British wave, mate.
Next episode I'm going to be wearing a Chinese dress.
Don't do that.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of ABC's film. This week we are watching The Bridge on the River Kwai. It's an Alec Guinness film about the Burmese railway being built by British prisoners of war. The Bridge on the River Kwai is a movie about Alec Guinness. He plays a commanding officer who is in charge of prisoners of war in this camp who have to build a bridge over the River Kwai. And they do it. That's kind of...
It's about the moral quandary, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's sort of about his British pride ends up getting the better of him because he wants to build a really good bridge, but why would you build a really good bridge for the enemy and help them out? Whilst that's going on, there's it's not necessarily an American mission, is it?
No, it's British. They're British.
The B plot.
The other chaps are British because what's his name? Shears.
Yeah. Major
Shears. He's not a real major, but it's part of the plot anyway. But like he says that the guy who's in charge of the mission was a Cambridge Don, so I imagine it is.
Yeah, but he also
British
said
mission.
This guy's Canadian, so it goes in with our international.
That kind of like Canadians were like part of the British fighting force from the start, weren't they?
Yeah, that's true. Well, anyway, there's a B plot going on about people who are on their way to destroy the bridge.
I wouldn't say it's a B plot. I'd say it's like a part of the A plot because it intersects with the A plot at the end, and it's an important part of how the A plot ties.
It's just a good B plot. You know, there's a reason for it to be there. It ties in with the A plot.
I would say there's two A plots, but yeah, carry on.
Okay, well,
it's a double A plot.
The double A plot, yeah, it just needs a crop top.
I don't get that, Jay.
Very good. With all of that.
Yeah, overall, I really liked it. It dragged a bit, but I thought it was great.
I think the main issue with the historical inaccuracies, like because and like the conditions were far worse than were portrayed in the film.
Yeah, it was something I said early on,
like,
wasn't it? It's kind of like a fairy tale version of Prisoners of War, if you know what I mean.
Well, they make a nod to it at the start, and you kind of think like because the Major Shears at the start is like, oh, they're making graves, and it's like, oh, everyone dies here. Like all my unit were killed. They were killed from overwork and dysentery and all these diseases that he lists off.
Yeah, but then you see none of that.
It was obviously a major problem, and then it's just like, oh no, the British soldiers are working happily, and it's like a water park that looks like
they were whistling to work and everything.
It's all wonderful, and there's no mistreatment.
Yeah. Apart
from what happens to the officers.
Well,
there's no.
One of the major plot points in the movie is that Alec Guinness is quite work shy, and the commandant of the
Saito,
prison, Saito. He says to all of the prisoners, everybody here works, including officers.
Yeah.
And Alec Guinness points out that as part of the Geneva Convention, officers aren't to be made to work prisoners of war camp.
I'm sure there's a principle behind that, but in the film it's not explained.
It kind of sets up the fact that he doesn't like breaking rules. You know, he wants to do everything by the book, so he flat out refuses. And so him and his officers are chucked into what they call the oven, which is like a hole in the ground that gets really hot for weeks, I guess.
It seemed like that, didn't it?
Yeah,
and he says at one point cited that we lost a month because it wasn't entirely.
Yes, yeah. So for a month he's in this oven thing because he doesn't want to do any physical labour. And everybody congratulates him for it.
I'd rather cook than do any work.
Yeah. But then he gets out, the commandant sort of comes around and says, okay, well, we'll probably do better with you running your troops than with me running it. But I'm quite happy that became a negative plot point, because I thought they were going to keep it as like something heroic that he did,
Yeah.
when really it was kind of like you're just putting people in harm's way because you don't want to work alongside your men. That's ridiculous.
There were no real major consequences of his decision though, like, because they got the bridge done really well. Like he was like shown to be a really good organizer and a really good commander.
Yeah.
Just for the wrong ends, I
Yeah.
suppose. So it wasn't like anyone got murdered because of him or any like deaths happened.
Yeah.
We must put a stop to these demonstrations. Yes, sir.
Other than that bit at the beginning, there's no like you said, it looked like quite a nice place to hang
Yeah,
out.
it seemed like you get a few beers and you sit out in the sun, in the afternoon sun, and it's quite pleasant.
Yeah, at one point,
There's no, like,
before
difference.
he's in charge of the people who are building the bridge, you keep seeing them, and they're under the charge of the Japanese army, and they literally say, oh, they're just being allowed to run amok, and they're literally just diving off the bridge,
Yeah.
swimming, like it looks like a water park, and nobody's getting shot or beat or anything.
Which, you know, in real life they were working at bayonet point and they were being
Yeah,
beaten all
they
the
were-
time. And
Well, I mean, I'm only going by other films that I've seen,
Yeah.
but other films that I've seen show it as like horrific.
yeah, one of the main plot points in the book, which I mentioned earlier, which you may not cut in, obviously, but Deep Road to the Hard North, or no, Road to the Deep North is like they would stand out for hours and hours in the morning for roll call, and they would go through all the names, and there was literally thousands of people in the camp.
Yeah,
So it would take hours, and it would take them like 2 hours to get to work,
yeah,
carrying all their equipment, then 2 hours to come back every
yeah. That's the
day.
kind of thing that's shown in
And they would all,
Angelina Jolie's film Unbroken.
yeah, so
Like there's that sort of stuff.
they would all like die of dysentery and stuff. Like it was really bad.
Yeah,
And they were all completely mistreated. And this film is like, oh well, you can get the bridge done better than us because the Japanese are shit engineers, essentially.
yeah,
So you can do whatever the hell you want.
I've decided to alter the daily work quota of our men.
Alter?
Yes, I've increased it. From 1.5 yards of earth moved to 2 yards. It's in the general interest, and I was sure it would meet with your approval. Major Hughes has all the facts and figures. Hughes, would you take over?
Yes, sir. I've done a time study, Colonel Saito, of the entire project. As you can see at a glance, the available forces have been badly distributed.
So other than there were a few moments when there's the American soldiers, well, the soldiers in the double A plot that are like going through the jungle, and there's a montage that goes on for it's probably only 5 minutes, but it felt
feels
like
like
it
a
felt
long
like a
time.
lot longer than that. At that point started dragging. There was with again the double A plot when they were planting the explosions on the bridge.
Yeah.
That went on for way too long. Like those were the two moments where I was like, ugh.
I think there's no tension because I knew like precisely how the film ended up. Like I knew they built the bridge at the end from the start.
I knew that as well, but I didn't
Yeah.
know any of the Alec Guinness stuff. So
Yeah.
I thought that ending was masterful once he
It's a
starts
really good
spotting the
ending,
wire
absolutely.
and all that. I thought, but other than it dragging, why didn't you like it so much?
Like I said beforehand, I think it was very airbrushed. And I think that kind of took away from it a lot for me because it's kind of like this isn't real. Like it's just some kind of weird British fantasy, you know?
Yeah.
About how it's a very jingoistic film because, like I said beforehand, it comes across like the British know what they're doing and the Japanese are completely incompetent. So
There was that, but I did think. I mean, the central theme of the movie is that this British guy is too proud.
yeah, and he's
So it also, I mean, you're absolutely right. The Japanese people aren't shown in a good light in the film, but neither are British.
yeah, but they murdered.
Although they do end
built
up saving the day.
They built a kick-ass bridge back.
But I mean, like the main character of the movie is like massively flawed. Like
I think it's quite good the way they kind of set him up to be the hero. Like
that's
you
where I
said
thought it was going. I
beforehand.
was expecting
Yeah.
to hate it because it was going to be shown as heroic.
Yeah, because he's like a very staunch defender of like
Yeah.
British culture and British militarism and that kind of stuff. And then it turns out that he's just he cares so much about the
Yeah.
way he appears, and it's like, oh, you guys should be really proud of what you've done here.
Yeah.
The British are going to stand here for like 1,000 years or whatever, you know, like
Yeah.
the Third Reich.
And he, well, I mean, we've been in spoilers for a while, but like he literally just ends up getting a whole bunch of people killed for no reason just
And
because he
that
likes
plaque.
his bridge.
And that plaque that he puts up, like,
Jesus, he puts up a plaque on the bridge that's kind of like this bridge was designed and engineered by
By
British
British,
soldiers under command of me.
Lieutenant Nicholson.
You know,
yeah,
it's
Colonel
just like,
Nicholson or
fuck's
whatever.
sake, man. Like, I've worked them to the bone.
I mean, it's like it's a subtle critique of, in its own way, it's a subtle critique of that guy, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah,
what's the subtle
British
critique.
hubris, I guess.
It'd be kind of interesting if it was like he'd lost his mind, like he'd slowly gone slightly insane, and that was why
Yeah,
he was working the way he was. But no, he's just an asshole.
yeah, he was
The guy
just
was a prick.
too proud. But I love that. I thought it was good. This was impeccably directed.
Absolutely, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a David Lean film, so Lawrence of Arabia. It's that kind of caliber. It was obviously made before Lawrence of Arabia, but
Yeah, I've not seen Lawrence of Arabia, but that's known for being like really well framed.
it's known for
This
being one of
was really
yeah.
well framed, so if that's known as his best, I'm really looking forward to getting to that.
You've not seen it before?
No.
No, it's like 4 hours long, Barry.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, like I said when we first started watching it, you can tell this is one that was well considered because it had been restored.
Yeah,
And
the
it's
restoration was really good. I'm
It
sure
looked great.
there were there was one shot where like the right hand side of the screen looked like nighttime and the left hand. I'm sure that's been done since
Yeah.
since it was released. But I don't know. But I'm sure there'll be some video files going like, oh yeah, so it's an okay transfer, but the color correction is off.
Entirely possible.
But to
It's
people
really
like
weird.
us, it looked amazing.
It's really weird in these films how people's eyes look so blue, you know? I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
think
It's,
of the
it's the
character,
Technicolor,
but
isn't it? It's the,
Yeah, it's just like aquamarine blue.
But to go from like the
You
last
see
two
it.
films we've watched that were Best Picture winners was Around the World in 80 Days and Marty, and they both weren't particularly
There's a really
good quality.
at the moment.
This is fantastic.
There's a really weird kind of like variability in quality because this is really good and obviously like this feels like this feels less like modern film making than On the Waterfront because On the Waterfront can still kind of feel like a modern film.
Yeah.
This is certainly of its time,
Yeah,
but it's a quality film of its time, or at least it's one of the films that's endured from the time
Yeah.
it was made.
but like I say, it's just the direct. There were so many times I was like, "That's a good shot." Like over and over again, I thought it was a good shot. There were a couple of like fisheye shots because
Yeah.
of the
Yeah, I noticed
cinema
that.
scope.
Yeah.
Like-
Like when the edge of the frame gets distorted.
Yeah,
when
it
the
kind
camera
of
pans, you're like,
curves in,
it's a
but
bit weird.
not as often as in around the World in 80 Days. It happened a lot in that.
Yeah, I think so.
The film as a whole, it's very straightforward apart from Alec Guinness's character, but it is literally just they're prisoners, they need to build a bridge, and then there's these other people that are going to blow up the bridge. That's cool, I liked it. It held my interest, it dragged a little bit. But overall,
I wasn't bored throughout the entire thing. I was enjoying watching it, but I didn't think it was a particularly great film. Cinematography was fantastic.
Yeah.
The acting was really good.
no, I thought it
The
was...
story was good. The conclusion was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like it had. I'd say like out of all the Oscar films we've watched, it has the second best conclusion compared to On the Waterfront.
On the Waterfront, yeah.
On the Waterfront was like a really emotionally ending for me.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
I ever really got emotionally involved in this film, but the way the conclusion was set up in this one was
Yeah.
was really kind of riveting. And
No, it was so
fantastic.
tense.
Yeah.
No, it's nice that we disagree though.
That's alright. I'd say this is like I think probably at the time if I watched it then I'd be like, wow, this is fantastic.
I think it
Like, I've
deserves
never
its
seen-
reputation. I think.
Yeah, it's. I think this is one that feels more of its time than other films. Though.
Yeah, this feels of its time, but it's still like damn good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of films where you think to yourself like, oh, I can see why people liked it then,
Yeah.
but nobody would like it now. This, I can see why they liked it then,
Yeah.
and I think people would like it now.
I think people would still enjoy watching it now. I think it's not if you've got nothing else to do with your time,
Yeah,
watch this film. It's enjoyable. Certainly.
My orders were only intended for officers below.
None
the
of my
rank-
officers will do manual labor.
Please! I was about to say, I have been thinking the matter over and decided to put majors and above on administrative duties, leaving only the junior officers to lend a hand.
I'm afraid not. The convention's quite clear on that point.
Alright, that was our review on Bridge on the River Kwai. It's good to see a Best Picture winner from back then, though.
It's okay.
Yeah, especially considering the last two. I started to feel like we're just watching these movies and then shitting on them, so it's nice to...
We've got some good ones coming up though. We've got Lawrence of Arabia, we've got The Apartment.
Yeah, once we get to the 60s, it should clear up, so thanks for watching.
You know what we've never done on these videos before?
Cheers! And the reason why is because right above the mic.
It's gonna like people watching this with headphones.
Yeah. It's alright, thanks.
Every Every night I bring her Frankfurter sandwiches, Frankfurter sandwiches. Oh, my baby loves those Frankfurter sandwiches, Frankfurter sandwiches. I try to win her with candy, candy, ice cream and custard. But how she likes hot dogs with mustard.